The question is that the bill be now read a second time. Deputy Leader.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, on behalf of Leader, I beg to move that the proceedings on the business set down on the order paper for today be exempted at this day's sitting from the provisions of Standing Order number 2, please.
The question is the motion moved by the Deputy Leader. As many as are of the opinion say aye. To the contrary, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Mr. Don Wee.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I declare that I'm working with a Singaporean bank. I support the bill, but I have a few points of clarification. The Bretton Woods Agreement, signed in 1944, resulted in the creation of the IMF and the World Bank. While these institutions have played important roles in global economic stability and development, I feel that they face challenges in addressing the complex issue of climate change. Through our government's fulfillment of our commitment to IMF, can Singapore influence IMF to prioritize climate change as a central component of its operations? This may include integrating climate considerations into their policies, lending practices, and technical assistance programs. As mentioned by Senior Minister Tharman on the 8th of June 2023, our MAS aims to bring together philanthropies, multilateral development banks, development finance institutions, and donor partners to channel blended finance at scale into transition and green infrastructure projects into the region. I hope MAS can invite IMF to come on board, as IMF also has the means to provide adequate financial support to emerging countries for climate mitigation and adaptation efforts. IMF can play a role in facilitating this coordination by fostering dialogue and collaboration between developed and developing countries, as well as providing technical assistance in developing climate-related policies. For example, IMF can broker more carbon credit cooperations between the developing countries and Singapore, so that there's a good range of carbon credits for our large carbon emitters to choose from in Singapore. Although not directly related to this bill, but since the Singapore government funds the operations of IMF's offices in Singapore, can Singapore be given priority to support IMF's capacity building efforts in providing training, knowledge sharing, and technical assistance on climate-related topics to member countries? Can MAS and IMF jointly provide some form of air cover or support to the financial institutions in Singapore, so that they will be incentivized to provide transition finance to the brown industries in the region? This will certainly boost Singapore's capacity as well as status as a green economy hub. This is affirmed by a recent article published by the Massachusetts Institute of Technology's Center for Energy and Environmental Policy Research, which states that many ASEAN countries face the challenge of reducing greenhouse emission, while at the same time expanding energy supply to meet the needs of their rapidly developing economies. Next, Section 4 of the BWAA empowers MAS to subscribe to Singapore's quota share, which is currently special drawing rights of $3.9 billion, amounting to about US $5.5 billion. Is this funded or unfunded commitments? If it is funded, what is the interest rate, and can we sell the SDR back to IMF in the event Singapore needs funds urgently? Who does IMF borrow from currently? Where is Singapore in the repayment pecking order? I just want to make sure that Singapore's interest is not being compromised and agreements are entered into on a pari passu basis. The agreement allows Singapore to provide a US $20 million grant to the Poverty Reduction and Growth Trust, which provides loans to low-income countries. I understood that there's no stipulated repayment date, so does this mean that Singapore cannot take back the grant in the event Singapore has an emergency? If this is the case, why would Singapore want to provide such a grant? How does it benefit Singapore? I appreciate that by supporting the IMF, Singapore can also contribute to poverty reduction, improved infrastructure, and increased access to clean energy in developing countries. This in turn can foster economic growth and stability, benefiting the global economy, which Singapore is part of. Thank you.